What happens to a child who grows up without love? It sounds like a question from a dark novel, but it's more real than most of us want to admit. Imagine being a baby in a crib, crying for attention, for someone to pick you up. But no one does. You learn quickly that your cries don't matter. This is the stark reality for many children who experience abandonment and neglect. And it leaves scars. Deep, psychological scars that shape how they relate to the world. In 2000, a different study began in Romania, gathering 136 babies and toddlers. This wasn't just any study. It involved flipping a coin to decide their fate. Heads, they get a family. Tails, they stay in an institution. The results were chilling. Those who ended up in institutions faced a grim future, with one caregiver responsible for up to 15 infants. Can you imagine that? It's like being in a crowded room but no one sees you. The babies in these wards didn't cry because their cries went unheard. This is where we start to see the psychological effects of neglect unfold. When a child doesn't receive consistent care, their brain development takes a hit. The Bucharest Early Intervention Project showed that children who remained in these institutions had an average IQ in the low 70s. That's not just a statistic, that's a whole future lost. Meanwhile, those who were placed in families before their second birthday showed useful improvement in brain activity and overall development. But why does this matter? Because it speaks to a sensitive period in development. If a child doesn't bond with a caregiver early on, the damage can be severe and lasting. Now, let's talk about attachment styles. These styles are the blueprint for how we interact with others as adults. Secure attachment comes from a loving, responsive environment. Anxious attachment? That often stems from inconsistent caregiving. Maybe a parent was there sometimes, but not always. And then there's avoidant attachment, which can form when a child learns that their needs will be ignored. They adapt by shutting down emotionally. But here's the kicker. These attachment styles don't just disappear when we grow up. They follow us into our relationships. An adult with an anxious attachment style might cling to their partner, constantly seeking reassurance. On the flip side, someone with an avoidant style might push their partner away, fearing intimacy. It's like a dance where nobody knows the steps. So, what does this look like in real life? Picture a guy named Jake. He grew up in a Romanian orphanage. When he was finally adopted at age 5, he was thrilled. But he struggled to connect with his new parents. They were loving and attentive, but Jake had learned that love could be fleeting. He often pushed them away, convinced they'd eventually leave him too. As an adult, Jake found it hard to maintain relationships. His partners often felt confused by his behavior. One minute he'd be all in, and the next, he'd ghost them. It took years of therapy for him to understand the roots of his behavior. He wasn't just being difficult, he was responding to the trauma of his early years. But it's not all doom and gloom. Many individuals like Jake do overcome their early experiences. They find ways to build healthy relationships, often through therapy, support groups, or simply through strong connections with others who understand their struggles. It's a long road, but resilience is a good force. There's a real element to this story too, the societal implications of neglect. In Romania, Nicolae Ceausescu's regime banned abortion and contraception in 1966, leading to a population explosion. By the time the regime collapsed, around 170,000 children were raised in institutions. These children didn't just grow up to be individuals, they became part of a larger societal issue. Many struggled to adapt, facing prejudice and misunderstanding. The effects of early neglect ripple through society. Children who grow up without proper care often face challenges in education, employment, and relationships. They might find themselves in a cycle of poverty, struggling to provide for their own families. And let's not forget the emotional toll. Many carry deep-seated feelings of unworthiness, struggling to find their place in a world that often seems unwelcoming. In recent years, there has been a push for reform in how we care for children, especially those in institutions. In 2019, the United Nations agreed to replace institutions with family-based care. This is a huge step forward, but change takes time. There are still many children around the world living in institutions, facing the same fate as those in the Romanian study. Now, let's talk about the ethical concerns surrounding the Bucharest Early Intervention Project. Some argue that the study was unethical because the children were too young to consent. Others believe it was important for understanding the long-term effects of neglect. It's a complex issue. On one hand, we need to know the truth about what neglect does to a child. On the other, we must protect those vulnerable individuals from being treated as mere data points. But even with the ethical dilemmas, the findings from the study are invaluable. They highlight the importance of consistent adult interaction for healthy child development. Neglect doesn't require cruelty. It only requires absence. The babies in those wards experienced a lack of response from the world, which affected their brain development. And the effects were measurable: smaller head sizes, cellular aging, and psychiatric disorders by age 4.5. So what can we do? How can we support children who have experienced abandonment and neglect? For starters, awareness is key. We need to talk about these issues openly. We need to advocate for better systems of care and support for children, both in institutions and in families. There are organizations dedicated to helping institutionalize children around the globe. They work to provide resources, education, and care options. By supporting these initiatives, we can help break the cycle of neglect and abandonment. And let's not forget the power of individual stories. Sharing personal experiences can help others understand the impact of neglect and abandonment. It makes the issue real. It's one thing to talk about statistics. It's another to hear a story about a child who found their way back to love after years of struggle. The road to recovery is not a straight line. It's filled with twists and turns, setbacks and breakthroughs. But there's hope. Children who grow up in loving environments can thrive, even if they come from difficult backgrounds. They can learn to trust, to love, and to build useful relationships. As we dive deeper into this topic, we have to ask ourselves, what kind of world do we want to create for these kids? Do we want to perpetuate a cycle of neglect? Or do we want a culture of care and compassion? The choice is ours. So, the next time you see a child who seems withdrawn or anxious, take a moment to think about their story. What might they have gone through? How can you help an environment where they feel safe and loved? This isn't just about individual experiences. It's about building a better society for everyone. Because at the end of the day, we're all connected. The health of our communities depends on how we care for our most vulnerable members. And remember, the effects of abandonment and neglect may be hidden, but they are very real. It's time to bring these conversations to the forefront, to challenge the assumptions we hold, and to advocate for change. The future of many children depends on it. As we continue to unpack the psychological effects of abandonment, let's keep asking ourselves, how can we ensure that every child has the opportunity to thrive? What steps can we take today to make a difference? The answers to these questions could shape the lives of countless individuals. So let's keep the conversation going. Let's shine a light on the effects of neglect and abandonment, and work together to create a world where every child is valued and loved. Because, ultimately, that's what we all deserve.